Jessica Ridgeway was only 10 years old. She passed away on October 5th, 2012, and Austin Sigg is the one to blame. He took advantage of the moment and kidnapped her while she was walking from home to school. He lured her into his car and took her home. There, a terrible crime was committed against her will. Then he dismembered her and dumped her torso in plastic bags along the road. On October 1st, 2013, Austin pleaded guilty to 15 counts, and on November 19th, he was sentenced to life in prison. Before the Ridgeway kidnapping, Austin also tried to kidnap a woman while she was jogging, also in 2012, but fortunately, she managed to escape and reported it to law enforcement. So, Austin had been on the radar of law enforcement for a long time. On October 5th, 2012, Ridgeway left her home in Westminster and headed to Witt Elementary School. Few hours later, Ridgeway's mother learned from the school that she never showed up. Her mother reported her disappearance to the police that same day, which led to a 17-day search and investigation. Investigators canvassed various neighborhoods and collected more than 700 DNA samples. On October 7th, Ridgeway's backpack was found with her glasses and various items of clothing. According to then Deputy District Attorney Hal Sargent, the purpose of placing the backpack and its contents was to make it clear that Ridgeway was gone. On October 10th, Ridgeway's torso was found in 2 black bags on 82nd Street in Partridge Park, Arvada, Colorado. The location was 9 miles from Ridgeway's home. According to Sargent, it was placed there deliberately so it would be found. The Westminster Police Department reported that Ridgeway's abduction was connected to an attempted abduction of a woman on May 28, 2012. The woman told authorities that a cloth with a chemical smell was placed over her face, but she managed to escape and call 911. She described the perpetrator as white or light-skinned, between 18 and 30 years old, with brown hair and about 5 foot 8 inches tall. In other words, this wasn't the first time Austin had tried to kidnap someone, and I think his motives are clear here. But the question is, what was going through his head when he decided to switch from an adult woman to a small child? Austin Sigg, the son of media mogul Robert George Sigg, attended Arapahoe Community College and studied mortuary science. According to declassified court documents, Sigg became addicted to illegal materials involving children at the age of 12. And therapy did not help him overcome this addiction. Law enforcement officers found materials on Sigg's cell phone that were chilling to the core. According to Sigg's own testimony, his addiction led him to watch increasingly violent materials on a regular basis. Initially, the prosecution intended to charge Sigg in the Ridgeway case and seek the death penalty. However, according to a 2005 decision by the U.S. Supreme Court, Sigg could not be punished in this way because he was a minor at the time the crime was committed. Sigg was initially held without bail at the Mountain View Youth Services Center in Lakewood, Colorado. Sigg first appeared before the Jefferson County Juvenile Court on October 25, 2012. On that day, the prosecution announced its intention to try Sigg as an adult. Sigg's attorneys requested and were granted a gag order on the details of the case. At that time, the lead prosecutor assigned to the case declined to comment on the specific charges that were planned to be brought against Sigg. On October 30th, Sigg was formally charged as an adult on 17 counts, 11 of which related to Ridgeway, and the remaining 6 to the attempted abduction on May 28th. Due to security concerns stemming from the high-profile nature of the case, only members of the media and the families of Sigg and Ridgeway were allowed in the courtroom on October 30th. More than 15 deputies from the Jefferson County Sheriff's Office were present at the scene. Sigg's attorney argued that at the time of the crime, Sigg was 17 years old and mature enough to fully understand the gravity of his actions. Prosecutors, on the other hand, argued that Sigg had carefully planned the attempted abduction on May 28, 2012, and that the kidnapping of Ridgeway took place just 4 months later. On October 1, 2013, Sigg pleaded guilty in Jefferson County District Court and, against his attorney's advice, admitted guilt to 15 counts of the indictment. Sigg also confessed to attempting an abduction on May 28, 2012. Sigg's amended plea was accepted by Judge Stephen Munsinger. 2 weeks later, on November 19th, Sigg was sentenced to life in prison. The sentence allowed for the possibility of parole after 40 years. However, Munsinger ruled that Sigg must serve an additional 86 years after he becomes eligible for parole. Sigg's legal counsel tried to argue that the sentence was cruel and unusual, but Munsinger rejected their arguments, stating, "This case calls for a life sentence." In June 2014, Sigg was transferred to a prison out of state to ensure the confidentiality and safety of both himself and the Ridgeway family. Of course, the judge is right, and it's foolish to argue with that. And, naturally, such a cruel crime demands, if not the death penalty, then definitely life imprisonment. After such deeds, how can anyone say the sentence is cruel, while Sigg's actions were not? That question doesn't need an answer. By the way, Austin's mom spoke to the media a lot, so I want to show you how everything looked from her perspective. Mindy Sigg, that was Austin's mother's name. Her life was turned completely upside down in just one day. A single mother or two, she came home from work and took a shower when she found her 17-year-old son sitting on the bed. "Is this about Jessica?" she asked. "Yes," he replied. "I'm a monster." It's like the mom knew something, right? Soon after, Sid called the police and shared the news that turned her life upside down and sent her firstborn to prison for the rest of his life. "Hello, I need you to come to my house," she said. According to the call recording, "My son wants to turn himself in for a crime against Jessica Ridgeway. I brought this child into the world." Faced with an unthinkable dilemma for any parent, Sigg called the police to help turn in her son, Austin Reed Sigg, for a brutal and heinous crime. Sigg's story, as told to CNN, highlights the dilemma faced by parents whose children commit or are suspected of committing high-profile crimes. Sigg's experience also offers insight into what families like hers go through after a loved one commits a monstrous act. For years, she struggled with mental health issues, describing an almost overwhelming sense of remorse, even as the intense public interest in her son and his crime gradually faded over time. "I felt a terrible sense of guilt," she told CNN, "not because I had anything to do with it, but because I brought this child into the world." Sigg told CNN that she never spoke with Jessica's family. She was afraid, but what she didn't know was that Sigg's decision to call the police about her son had long been deeply appreciated by the Ridgeway family. Instead of trying to hide him or run away, she turned him in, Jessica's mother, Sarah Ridgeway, told CNN. And, in my opinion, that saved other children, because we don't know if he would have tried to do it again. The fact that she thought about our child, about Jessica, and not just her own was incredible, she said, and we thank her for that every day. And you know, it really is a noble act. While everyone else tries to hide a criminal, this woman likely saved several children's lives that her son Austin could have destroyed. And you know, it's very hard to imagine carrying a son, giving birth to him, raising him, and then finding out he's a criminal, not just a thief or a delinquent, but a real maniac. I'm sure that psychologically it's very difficult. Jessica's grandmother, Kristen, remembers her as a cheerful child who was always smiling. Their family's very close-knit, and Jessica was at its center with her love of the color purple, her dreams of becoming a cheerleader, and her enthusiasm for singing, even if she wasn't always on key. "She was a joyful child and was always cheerful," said Kristen Ridgeway. Hundreds of volunteers combed through fields and streets, put up flyers, and went door to door, carefully looking for any sign of the little blonde girl. Hundreds more law enforcement officers, local, state, and federal, worked on the case, at one point searching more than 500 homes and thousands of vehicles, and following up on hundreds of leads. A small breakthrough in the case happened a couple of days after Jessica disappeared. That's when a local resident found a backpack with her belongings, including her purple-framed glasses, according to testimony submitted to the Jefferson County Court. But a few days later, the search came to an end. Jessica was dead, police reported. According to them, her body was not intact. This case was a constant topic of conversation in the community, said Sigg, an ophthalmic technician who was raising 2 children after divorcing their father a few years earlier. She recalled that her biggest fear was that one of her sons would be abducted, and Jessica disappeared so close to home. During the investigation, police linked DNA found in Jessica's body to another case, A few months earlier, a 22-year-old woman who was jogging near the lake had been attacked by a man who tried to drag her into the bushes off the trail. She fought him off, but police still hadn't found the attacker, whom the woman described as a white man with brown hair, between 20 and 25 years old, and about 5 feet 8 inches tall. According to sworn testimony, at the time of Jessica's disappearance, Sigg didn't suspect her son, even after the FBI, acting on a neighbor's tip, collected his DNA during the investigation, she said. She thought it was just a way to help. But psychologist Dr. Anna Salter later testified that Sigg's son probably felt the walls closing in, which prompted him to confess to his mother a few days later. Looking back, Sigg recalls one instance when she heard a description of a possible suspect on the news. She remembers thinking the suspect sounded like her son, and she texted him to tell him about it, thinking it was just a strange coincidence. He didn't seem surprised, as she expected. Instead, he asked, "Where'd you hear that?" Sigg said her son was her whole world when he was born. No one else existed. I don't know what music was popular. I don't know what TV shows were popular, she said. He was everything I could have wished for. He was a good kid, his mother told CNN. The kind teachers and other parents always praised. He was smart, she said, smarter than other kids. But he had trouble in school. He couldn't handle his homework. It was only later that Sigg found out her son had been bullied because of his voice. We were very close, she said, but he never told her about the bullying. I think you're aware of the problem of bullying. Indeed. Children who face bullying in school often grow up to be selfish and resentful in the future. It always manifests differently, but for Austin, it showed up in the most severe and horrific way possible. Sigg's son dropped out of school in 11th grade and got his high school diploma. It was a decision Sigg supported, saying he found school boring. He started studying at Arapahoe Community College, where at the time of his arrest, he was training to be a mortician. Sigg didn't think much about the career he chose. Somebody has to do it, right? That's what she thought anyway. But later, she recalled, people would say, "That's creepy. He had just confessed to a murder." Although she hadn't suspected her son, somehow Sigg knew what he was going to say when he came up to her to confess. I just knew. I don't know why, but I just knew. Sigg collapsed to the floor and burst into tears. When asked what went through her mind, she replied, "Horror, disbelief. Like, this can't be true. This can't be true. I'm gonna go to jail," her son said. "I know," Sigg replied. "You have to call the police." And he said, "Can you do it for me?" Sigg first called the Jessica Ridgeway case hotline, and then she was transferred to the Westminster police. In the recording of the call, later released by the police, Sigg and her son, both in a state of emotional shock, sound frustrated by the dispatcher's questions, feeling like they're not being taken seriously. The dispatcher asked, "What's going on over there? Didn't you hear me?" "He just confessed that he killed her," Sigg said. "He said he did it and told me the details, and that her remains are in my house." "I don't really understand why you're asking these questions," Sigg's son told the dispatcher when his mother handed him the phone. "I killed Jessica Ridgeway. I have proof that I did it." The recording shows that the mother and son waited about 18 minutes for the plainclothes detectives to arrive, although Sigg said it felt much longer. During the call, Sigg told the dispatcher that her son wouldn't leave her side. When asked if he was still with her, Sigg replied, "Yes, I'm hugging him. I was scared." Sigg and her son were taken to the Westminster police station separately. He was transported in an unmarked car and she in a patrol car. There, in a recorded interview with the police, Sigg's son said that he had been driving around the area looking for a victim. He said he didn't specifically choose Jessica. "It was a random place, a random time. Everything was random," he said. He waited for Jessica on the morning of October 5th, 2012, kidnapped her on her way to school, and tied her hands and feet with plastic zip ties. He took her to his house. There was no one else at home. Why did he kill Jessica? Because, according to him, he felt that otherwise he wouldn't be able to escape justice. "I think that the moment I dragged her into my car, I realized she wasn't going to make it out alive," he said. On the night her son confessed to the crime, Sigg stayed at her sister's house. In the basement, they put the kids' beds side by side so they could lie next to each other, but Sigg couldn't fall asleep. I kept feeling like Austin was about to come down the stairs, she said. I was scared. In reality, Austin's mother is a very brave person. I don't know. Personally, I couldn't be near someone who committed such a heinous crime. And yet, she even told the police on the phone that she was hugging him. I don't know how she found the courage for that. Because you never know what's going on in the heads of people like that. And who knows, maybe he would have decided to deal with his mother the same way. But fortunately, he didn't touch her. In his interview with the police, he described the abduction as the fulfillment of a fantasy, according to the detective who interrogated him. According to his testimony, it can be concluded that several years earlier, in 2008, he underwent treatment after being caught watching videos involving children. Psychologist Salter testified on behalf of the state that Sigg's son had searched for prohibited material online. According to Salter, the defendant exhibited sadistic traits, but his upbringing did not influence his crime, she testified, adding that he was not subjected to abuse as a child. In an interview with CNN, Sarah Ridgeway echoed this point, saying about Sigg, she didn't do anything that could have connected this. I don't think the way she raised him had anything to do with what he did. Sigg attended every court session, often accompanied by family and friends. I needed to know what happened. I needed to know what would happen next. She said that everyone in her life supported her, except for her own mother, noting that her mother struggled with her own psychological issues. Sigg said that she was in denial and came up with alternative theories about her grandson's involvement in the crime. When her mother found out that Sigg had told her son to plead guilty, she got angry. They never spoke again. After her son confessed, Sigg fled her home in Westminster. After staying with her sister, she moved into a hotel, then an apartment, only returning to the family home after dark to pick up her things. Soon after that, she said she had her first panic attack while shopping in the DVD section at Target. I couldn't think straight, she said. I thought everyone I saw knew who I was and what had happened, which was crazy, she added, because it was on the other side of town. It was a sign of the years-long struggle she would have with her mental health. Sigg described how she often struggled with thoughts of ending her own life. And I fully understand that many will split into two camps. Some will judge this mother, while others, on the contrary, will say she's not to blame for anything. And you know, I'm in the second camp. I believe she's not to blame at all, because she did so much to help the police catch the criminal. After all, it was she who, you could say, turned in her own son. I would drive home and think about just veering off the road in my car, she said. Why can't that truck just hit me and flip over? Why do other people who don't deserve it get cancer while I'm ready to accept it? Why can't any of that happen to me? She shared that one time she received a voicemail that was just a recording of her call to the police. Every time something like that happened, she said, I knew I wouldn't go to work the next day. She never doubted her decision to call the police that night in October 2012, though she did wonder if she would have done the same if he had committed a less serious crime, like a hit and run. Would I have protected him? She asked. Or would I have made him confess to a less serious crime? I think I would have made him confess, she added. But I don't know. Her message to other families who are faced with the need to turn in their child, she says, is to try not to blame yourself. Though she admits that's easier said than done. However, Sigg regrets that she no longer has a relationship with her son. They haven't spoken in many years, ever since he was sentenced to life in prison. According to her, the FBI asked Sigg to give an interview to help build his profile. He refused, which made his mother very angry. I haven't spoken to him since then. I can't, she said. One of the reasons I don't talk to him is because I don't believe he'll tell me the truth, she said. I can't stand his lies, and I've never got an answer to the question why. And I need that. He hasn't tried to talk to her either, she said. I think he feels like he doesn't deserve it. After many years of therapy, Sigg's mental health improved. She finished therapy and now only goes to sessions once or twice a year when she needs support. But even after her recovery, she says she would still be willing to give her life to save Jessica. When asked if she had any message for the Ridgeway family, she replied, I would literally give my life to change what happened. I would trade my life for Jessica's. Even now, when I'm feeling better, I would do it if I could. For the past 13 years, the Ridgeway family has been on their own journey. Every day, they take it step by step. As they themselves say, there is no moving forward and there is no closure. Sarah Ridgeway compared the crime and its impact on her family to a broken plate, where each shard represents a family member. You try to put it back together, but there's one piece you lost that's missing, she said, and you can't put it back together properly or completely. But the Ridgeways, after learning about Sigg's experience, show compassion and mercy. I feel for her. If we could have hugged her in court and had been allowed to, we probably would have, but we couldn't, said Christine Ridgeway. I want her to know that we think about her often. We understand that she lost her son too, added Sarah Ridgeway. It's a different kind of loss, but she still lost her son. This story will be a lesson for many. Don't forget to keep an eye on your kids. Listen to what they say and watch what they're watching. It wouldn't hurt if you look at what they're interested in when they type in another search query. After all, as experience shows, some harmless search query can lead to a whole tragedy. And that's all for now. See you in the next videos. Bye everyone.